welcome.
G'day, everybody.
Hello and welcome to Oz by Drone. I'm Greg.
And I'm John.
Hey guys, we're having a lot of fun today. It's an interesting start to the day. We've got all of the fun of trying to do technology, and we've got a special guest in today. We've got Ken Heron coming to join us in a little bit.
Ken.
G'day, Ken. Yeah, he's a great guy. So just off the bat, just to let you know in advance, John can hear me and I can hear him, and Ken can hear me and I can hear him. But see, Ken is he's set in his ways. All of this newfangled technology and getting him to join Rendezvous, we got him into Skype. But to be fair to Ken, you know, this was at the last minute getting him as a substitute guest, so it's all good. But all things aside, let's get started and start with the news.
Hot bit of the news today. Oh, you're going to love the first one, everybody. So here I have it. Drones make a mockery of the right to be quiet. Would you believe a residential tenancy legislation of every state and territory enshrines the right of tenants to quiet enjoyment? I didn't know this. Being a drummer all my life, I might have chosen a different profession. However, in most jurisdictions, the legislation expands the right to quiet enjoyment and also includes the right to reasonable peace, comfort, and privacy. And so guess what? One of the communities of the area of Morrison, I think it is here, has decided to test this legislation, and they are going to ban drones. They are called the Morrison Against Drones, or BAD, if you really spell that out. What I like about this is a response letter, lovely, from
we've got
Peter
some
McDonald
echo.
Hughes. Oh, have you? Well, I'll keep going anyway, but maybe you can hear it down the other end, folks. I'll keep going. I note the recent formation of the group Bonnython Against Drones in opposition to the introduction of drone deliveries in the Tuggeranong area. And I've discovered a far greater concern, writes Peter. There are large, noisy motorised contraptions permitted to travel right past my front door 24 hours of the day and night. These machines carry combustible fuel and present serious physical and environmental and economic danger to residents, their pets, and wildlife. One of those things even
so let's just get this
cat.
right. So let's just get this right? We're talking about these guys in Tuggeranong, where they're doing all of the testing of the drone delivery system, complaining about noise from drones. But they're okay about trucks going down the road. They're okay about planes going overhead. It's only the drones.
This is a suburb, folks, in Canberra, in the ACT, where the government's decided to test the delivery of their pharmaceuticals to a point in the street. Apparently it's going very well. It's a very limited test. But sometimes people just have to have something to complain about. And look, they don't have a lot to do down there in Canberra, but let's face it. And so let's complain about something. So they've formed a group, because everyone loves a group, and someone, has to be the treasurer and the committee member and the president. So BAD, is Bonnython Against Drones. And look out, folks, we're going to see a lot of this. I laugh at it because I go back to some of the talks that I give in schools, and I talk about disruptive technology. And the first one is electricity. And folks, when you first went to hotels where they had the electric light, they had a very important sign there saying this hotel room is equipped with an Edison electric light. Please do not try and light it with a match. It is turned on with a switch on the wall, and contrary to what you've been told, it doesn't cause disruption of sleep, and it is no danger to you. So we had brain cancer from the electricity. People worried about electricity running around. Look at the wires around the house everywhere these days, and we're all crazy anyway. Mobile phones, give you brain cancer. I mean, here we go. So drones are going to get their fair share of this. And here is a committee that's set out to absolutely prove the point. I mean, heaven help them, when they want to go somewhere in an aeroplane, I wonder if they're going to complain about that. And mind you, we have lots of groups that complain about that live around airports, complaining about airplanes. But as I said, people love to complain. They love to
complain, and noise is the number one complaint. I mean, for those people who live in strata complexes, you'll know about it. There's actually strata laws, let alone. You got strata laws, council laws, state laws, federal laws, international laws, just starting at the very basics. Someone who's too noisy, your next door neighbour, your strata committee can get brought into it. So,
well, I'm going to start a complaint movement about complaining. I think to complain about complaining, the restrictions on complaining are too great these days. And so we're going to have a committee complaining against complaints. That's what we'll do. We'll have a for and against. Good grief, the world's gone mad. Moving right on.
Moving right along. So we've got something else, and we've got the FLIR, the company FLIR, who make those wonderful little thermal cameras. They've got the Black Hornet military drones. They're very small, but they've got something new. So not only have you got these really tiny military drones, but they're also now able to shoot them out of a cannon just about. So let's have a look. We've got a little bit of video on this. We'll leave the audio down, and we're just going to have a chat about it. So we'll see it in a couple of moments. So this is a general,
I've actually had a look at these little aircraft. You might have seen them too, Greg, when we were down in Canberra last year.
Yeah.
Just incredible, the size of these things. Big bucks, of course, but wonderful technology. And, of course, what we're going to see now is the integration of AI, much more AI involved in this type of technology. I think it's the next phase, so that not only the aircraft can go off, you can see some basic AI there where it's trying to identify targets, friends and foes, from the imagery that it's collecting. Again, like everything else, we wait for the bandwidth and processing power to really make that effective. There it is there. Beautiful little aircraft, that one. Absolutely fantastic. in every way. That it's tiny. It fits in the palm of your hand.
But here's the bit that I like. They're now integrating them into military vehicles. So you've got a tank going down the road, and instead of firing a missile, you fire your drones off in quick succession, and they go and scatter and go out and have a look around. So
absolutely, yep. Well, it's no crazy thing to think that all of this technology, UAV technology, will find its way first in the military. There's got great ways to save lives and incentive in terms of that. So, I remember, you think back, Lawrence Hargrave was so disappointed that these designs, his aeroplanes, were going to be used to kill people. But that's the way we are. That's what the world is.
Absolutely. So from there, we go on to this one I'm really, really amused about. The title I've got here is Flap. And this is...
mimicking bees.
Yeah, this is a really, really cool type of drone. Let's just watch the video first, and we'll turn the audio down again and just chat about it over the top. And there's my phone going off and making lots of noises in the background. So this is an interesting one. It's a drone. We've all heard of fixed wing. We've all heard of, rotary craft, but something that's actually flapping its wings. That is absolutely amazing.
Technically, the term for that is an ornithopter.
Ornithopter.
An ornithopter is an aerial vehicle that mimics a bird's flight and flaps its wings. And they're not new. They can actually buy a couple of model aircraft that do it quite well. It is basically a rotary camshaft it can be a single engine. The magic of it, of course, is that it's very light, incredibly light to actually make it work. And of course, I think the biggest thing that you're seeing there, which is fantastic, is the control of it. It's one thing to get the ornithopter just to fly, another thing to be able to get it to do that kind of maneuverability. It's really remarkable. Look at that. Of course, it's probably got a tail rotor, and I can't quite see that. But if it hasn't, usually they've got some kind of tail feathers that are benefiting from the airflow past the wings themselves. Yeah. But check it out. If you're into that kind of thing, you can buy some kits and make ornithopters just to have a single brushless motor and a very, very light battery. And you'll have some great fun with it, especially trying to control it and get it trimmed.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're being used in experimental purposes for pollination to theoretically replace bees. Not replace them, but to supplement them. But anyway, and moving on from that, our next one, we've got a couple more. Pests. So there are some people in some parts of the world who like to shoot things outside their house when they don't like them. And I see Ken in another screen doing a big thumbs up now, but that's another story. But this is a picture of a possum, and it's a possum not in Australia, but in New Zealand. What's happening in New Zealand, John?
Well, in New Zealand, we see here they're going to use drones for pest control. A New Zealand company is working on a prototype they believe could change the way the small Pacific nation deals with pests. Now, they've benefited from helicopters over many years, and it's been quite a big deal over there in New Zealand. And they've tried pretty hard to keep the pests down because of it has a very big impact on their wildlife. As you say, the Americans would love it because they love to shoot stuff from their backyard porch. And, that's always helped them keep the pests down. But here you can see I'm looking at the possum, talking about the possum, 4.7 million people is the population of possums, but they are incredibly dangerous in terms of what they do to the native wildlife. They're going to use thermal stuff to find them, much easier to find them at night. Just
put that photo back up again. So that was a photo from one of the not that one, the next one. Coloured one. So in there you can see that this is the company that's developing this for New Zealand, and there's a little rabbit in the centre there. Nothing revolutionary. Yep. We've all heard about thermal cameras before, but putting some... Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to track them mostly. One of the challenges was spotting the pest from the areas. Many of the areas of pest live in a covered with thick bush. Night vision infrared cameras can do it. So I think for a start with, to deal with pests, what you really want to do is get the information where they are, where they're breeding, what their numbers are like, before you go out and bait the place with poison. So I think that's where, aerial imagery is going to help, because a lot of the native wildlife is killed by the poison as well. Yep, an obvious one there, another environmental save for the UAV.
Yeah. And from that, we go to ET Phone Home. And this is something where we're having a delivery. Now, everyone's heard about drone delivery services, but this is an interesting one, having a phone delivered. Where was it being delivered?
It was going to prison, of course. And we get quite a bit of feedback on this because my company's working with Merrill partners who've got a drone detection system, rather sophisticated, that they have installed in prisons. And we've got a couple in prisons here in New South Wales, and we get the job of going and testing them, which is great fun. So sneaking around in the bush and launching and dropping things into the prison. But to give you an idea, the going rate of a mobile phone in prison is about $2,000. A pouch of tobacco is about $600. So working out with a Phantom, if you can deliver a pouch of tobacco and a mobile phone, or perhaps two, you can pull up $5,000 with the delivery. So people are tempted to do it. The other cost is 2 years prison time, of course, which you'll get if you get caught. And more people are getting caught. You remember we showed the video. Oh, we got the video of the guys that had the camera on. That was last week.
That was last week, yeah. That was a cool video. Fantastic. But in this case, so the particular guy that had the phone in prison, he was a convicted sex offender, and he's calling a vulnerable teenage girl with calls and texts from inside prison. So using two phones that were believed to have been flown into the jail by drone.
When they say believed, it's because they're so hard to actually track. One of the things they've realised is, and we were able to a couple of times, even with security, if you do it and cover up your lights and go at night and do all the right things and you know what you're doing, the biggest thing is that most people don't know what they're doing, so they'll crash it somewhere on the way.
Yeah. So from that one, we go on to XRY drone, and it's a related topic. They've got some technology that's really, really helpful for prisons or other places. Let's just play the video. So we see there a drone that's crash landing somewhere. Let's assume it's inside a prison. So this company has gone and built some tech that is able to go and read the log data off that drone. So if you've got the drone, you want to find out where it came from, where it's going to, what it actually did every step along the way. We all know there are logs on drones, but certainly companies and government installations are not tech geniuses. So having that kind of stuff there is really helpful.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more of this type of technology as well as registration comes in. Regulators are going to look at what technology is available. We know recently, just as a side issue, 10 manufacturers throughout the world have been approved now for the LANC system. So LANC, low altitude airspace authorization in America. The FAA have got that going, and that will require this type of log checking and log fact checking that goes with registration and compliance, so that if you want to fly in the more sensitive airspace, you're transmitting that data and you're making that data available. So, that's if you want to do that kind of thing. I still, just for those of you that listen to the show, and I know get some comments about recreational flying. At the end of the day, guys, recreational flying comes under model aircraft. And if you want to mess with model aircraft, that's not going to happen. The model aircraft fraternity has been around since, the Wright brothers, and they have their own legislation and their own rules that are kept, and they fiercely defend them. And in Australia anyway, when an aircraft is a drone is being used for recreational sport, it's classed as a model aircraft, and so you will be able to operate under those rules. You might not be able to fly everywhere, but the day is not coming when they're all grounded. We just can't see that happening.
So interesting discussion, interesting topic. And for everyone who's watching, I'm turning red here. I'm already a bit sunburnt from the last few days. But in addition to that, Having Ken Heron on a screen in the background ready to come on as the next person, and John can't see him, only I can and my daughter. And you've got Ken putting things up his nose, in his ear, on the top of his glasses. He's absolutely insane. So with all of that, let's go to our guest. And Ken is our fill-in guest today. I did have someone else planned, but unfortunately we had a miscommunication or a misunderstanding about time zones. So Ken, hello and welcome.
Hello.
Oh.
I'm sure you're having a wonderful show. I can only hear your end of it, but thanks for having me on, and my special guest, Henry.
Thank you for coming, Henry. How you doing?
He's blind. He can't see the show.
Yeah, but Henry, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Look, thanks for coming in. I thought it was appropriate to have you in because yesterday I was flying, and where is it? It's downstairs. I should have had it here ready. The little drone, the little Spark. Where did that all come from? Where did the idea come from?
I wanted to do something for Make-A-Wish International, and kids, they like drones, and I thought if we could time it out, we could make it all culminate December 1st at Spin Up. But
not the way the weather's...
Yeah. Someone has put the kibosh on that.
Not the way the weather's been working in Australia. I mean, I've tried to go out multiple times, and finally I got to go out and film with it yesterday. But so tell me, what have you been doing other than planning for the Make-A-Wish?
I've been just editing lots and lots of video for people on my YouTube channel.
And your fans? Sorry,
Uh-huh.
and your Inspire, you're having a lot of fun with him?
Oh, so much fun. So much fun. I've been actually taking Mr. Phantom out a lot more.
Yeah.
And Henry, even though he's blind, has volunteered to be my spotter. Isn't that right, buddy?
He's a good spotter, is he?
Oh, he's such a good spotter. But the reason why I bring him along on my journeys is, sometimes I'll drive a long way and I'll get tired on the way home. So I just let him drive on the way home, and I can sleep in the back.
Okay. So he's able to drive. Is he also able to pilot the drone?
No, I only give him, we ordered him some 3D printed thumbs, and I only let him use his thumbs when he drives, because it's way too dangerous to let him fly a drone.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to share with you where I flew the Spark yesterday, back to that topic. And in other parts of the world, you've heard of our Crocodile Dundee kind of line. That's not a knife. That's
right.
A knife. Well,
Right.
See, I've seen Mel taking off from his little launch pad thing, his little circle. And the little Spark, just imagine it. That's not a launch pad. And then the camera pulls back. I'm going to have this video very soon to reveal the Spark sitting on a full-sized helicopter launch pad.
Oh, great. And there wasn't any trouble with airspace? Like, where was this helipad?
Yeah.
At a hospital?
This was down at Wanda Beach, and it's a helipad that's used by Surf Lifesaving. And I did all of my due diligence beforehand to make sure I could legally do the takeoff from that location. It's not a towered aerodrome. It's not actually listed as an aerodrome. And even so, I spoke to the landowner and the people who are responsible for controlling it, got their consent, listened to radio, and do all of those kind of good things anyway. But it was fun to be able to have this tiny little Spark on this gigantic helipad to take off from there.
And have you signed it yet? Because everybody's going to sign it.
It's getting signed before it goes out, and I'm planning on shipping it along tomorrow. So it definitely will be signed.
Okay. And then the next leg on its journey around the world, it's going over to Young in Hong Kong.
Absolutely. And
everybody will contribute video, and I'll edit it all together in the end, and then it'll be auctioned off to someone for Make-A-Wish International. And by the way, I'm looking and I'm seeing 36 people watching this right now, but only 18 thumbs up. How hard can it be to take your mouse and just go, right, Henry? You could take your mouse, if you have thumbs, you just go, hey, thumbs up.
We need
like that, huh?
we need a pause up button for Henry.
Yeah, we do. We do. And by the way, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to Greg's channel, do that now or the dog gets it.
Speaking of the dog.
Look at his face. He knows it's not loaded.
Yeah. Speaking of which, at the time that we were talking about the news story about the possum, you can just imagine I'm looking at a screen here in front of me and I'm watching Ken getting ready to go and take out the possum. Only in America. Anyway.
357 Magnum, baby. You need some of these in the outback. You got them rascals that'll kill you. You can shoot one of them funnel web spiders. Man, you could get that some gun.
So, Ken, if you could have a gun, would that make you come here earlier and quicker and faster if you could hold a gun here?
Sure, then I wouldn't have to buy a ticket.
No, it's just that I've heard from you multiple times that you're afraid of our outback and our wildlife.
Well, I'm a little leery about it. I mean, there's so many things that can kill you there. And my mom found out that I'm planning to go on going there. And so every day she is trying to discourage me by sending me images of things that will kill me.
Yeah.
I'm mostly afraid of the plane ride. What is it, like
the plane
15
ride's
hours?
nothing. Oh, that's nothing.
Okay.
Anyway, look, Ken, thanks for coming in and having a quick little chat and being our substitute guest. And thank you for supporting the channel indirectly all the time. You know, all of the plugs on yours. Guys, if you're watching today and you're not a subscriber on Ken's channel, and this is where you would normally have the sound effect and the glint in his eye, please do look up Ken Heron. I'll make sure I'll put a link in the description afterwards.
Please do. And thanks for having me on. And thanks to John, even though I can't hear him. I'm sure he's having a great discussion with you. I'll go back and watch it later.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. And bye.
See ya. Okay, that was the incredible Ken Heron. And just a quick reminder, that event, we're sending the drone around the world. All the funds raised will go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And if you want to participate in that auction, stay tuned to Ken's channel, or indeed to here. We'll put more news and more info about that coming forward. John, have we got you back?
I'm back here. Here I am.
Yeah. Apologies that you
could see the pigeon.
Yeah, apologies that we couldn't hear each other, but technology has some limitations at times. So let's move on.
Ken's always welcome. I love his show.
So moving on from that, we're going to talk about the legal stuff. And we mentioned before that, I went and launched from a real helicopter launch pad. Now, before doing that, I wanted to make sure I was ticking the boxes and doing the right things. And, we had some discussion back and forth. Let's chat about that. Can you take off from a helicopter landing pad legally?
Well, it depends. And as we discussed with your case, it's first of all, tick off the boxes. It was non-towered or non-controlled. It was in Class G airspace, which is non-controlled airspace. But technically, a helicopter landing pad is a movement area. So a takeoff and landing area or even an approach path, which is complicated for helicopters, is a no-go. So under our rules here in Australia, and let's clarify that we're talking about Australian rules at the moment, around a non-controlled aerodrome or heliport, if you become aware or there's any way you become aware or not have knowledge of a manned aircraft movement in the area, you'd have to land immediately or not take off. That's pretty much a simple rule, and it's a good one. And basically, folks, because the rule is so open and flexible, we invite everyone not to stuff this up. You know what I mean? Don't do it. If you actually see an aircraft, and most people do, it's common sense. You don't want to get your airplane hit either.
But let's expand on that. Let's expand on that. Even if you're not within 5.5 Ks of a helicopter landing site, does that same rule apply?
That's right. So in terms of the 5.5 kilometre rule is only for a controlled aerodrome. There's no 5.5 rule for a non-controlled aerodrome. For recreational users of drones, the rule is simply in a non-controlled aerodrome that if you're aware of a movement, that you land immediately or don't take off. But the other rule, it's in there, if you read the fine print in AC 101, is that you can't fly over or from a movement area. And so you'd have to argue this. Now, we did in due diligence for your job, we first of all checked with URSA, which is the en route supplement in Australia, and the heliport you're talking about was not listed in URSA. Correct. And it was private property, and it wasn't, as I say, once they're listed in URSA, I would say that that is a registered heliport and a registered movement area where you would need to not just ask permission from the owner. Remember, if you're going to fly above 400 feet and someone says, oh, this is my house you're over, you can fly above 400 feet. No, you can't. They can't give you that permission. And in fact, when a heliport or an aerodrome is on council property, even if the council says to you, you can fly over the movement area of our airport, technically you can't. The owner doesn't have permission to outside. CASA has a overriding rule about movement areas, and so you can't fly over them. And it's a pretty obvious one. Basically, we sort of, as operators, we understand that if you're at the airport and you're beside the movement area, it's definitely a very safe place to operate. But if you're
in the movement area,
in the movement area, if you're within that area, but let's give you the scenario where you're 300 meters away on a outside the aerodrome boundary, and you fly over a movement area. There is a danger there. Because although you can use your FPV to see on the ground, you can't visually see aircraft that are taxiing and departing. And so an aircraft, and if you don't have a radio, you're not required to have a radio necessarily. It's good airmanship to have one. But if you do, a fast taking off airplane or an airplane with a climb rate will be straight into your space in no time before you know it. So we keep the movement areas clear. There's your VHF. I know you've got one of those. Yep. Handy gadget.
So I took that out with me and I was monitoring the frequency listed in the VTC for the area, the right thing to do.
Yep. That's exactly right.
And again, just to go back to this whole situation. So it was council property. Council has sub-delegated the management of that facility to Surf Lifesaving Australia. So I contacted the council. They told me to contact the Surf Lifesaving people. They had someone who was specifically tasked with managing that facility, and they said, look, as long as there's no one in the area, it's only used for emergencies. There's no non-emergency use of that particular facility. As long as you land straight away, if you actually do see an aircraft in the air or here, then we're good with you doing whatever you want.
Yeah, and it's, as I said, probably more private property because it's not listed in URSA. It wasn't a licensed movement area. And look, Greg, the bottom line here in terms of legality, and we're talking about legality here, when it all comes down to it, it's mitigating the risk, and I'd recommend it. You have a spotter with you so that you have someone else looking out for air traffic while you're concentrating on the flying. You've got the permissions in place. It's all good to go. A lot of common sense comes into play. And whereas common sense won't always keep a fine from you if you're doing the wrong thing, there's usually because something that a rule, in fact, where you can't necessarily mitigate that risk. Other people in the area around the heliport, you'd have to, of course, those normal SOC rules, 30 metres from people, still exist.
Absolutely.
And so be clear, one of the great things to download for everyone in Australia is AC 101 version 2. I'll say it again, Alpha Charlie, AC 101 version 2. We can put a link in, but you'll easily Google it if you type RPAS AC 101 version 2 and get the latest. And there's a section in there that talks about really the new separation standards. Now, ACs, or advisory circulars, are issued by CASA, and what they are is they're an amendment or a supplement, I should say, not an amendment, a supplement to Part 101 air legislation. And what it's saying is here, the air legislation, Part 101, is in law, enshrined in law. An advisory circular tells you a bit of guidance, tells you what you can do, and we won't be carting you off or fining you.
Or in other words, it's more interpretation.
It's more interpretation, and Part 101 always needs interpretation It's very difficult legal speak in some areas, but also CASA have allowed certain, if you like, privileges inside 101 where they said, look, we're okay with this. It's an interpretation of Part 101. And so a lot of people, particularly things around the populous area rule. The populous area rule, if you ask 10 different people what it means, you get 10 different answers. You get 10
answers, yeah.
You get 10 different answers. And so CASA sort of seek to give you some examples in AC 101, i.e. if you're in the middle of the Simpson Desert and you're flying over a single person, the only person within 1,000 kilometres, you're flying in a populous area. They've put in height recommendations at a low height. They've suggested that a higher height, you would be over a small group of people to classify it as a populous area. So, things like covered way, flying over people who are under a walkway. Are you 30 metres from those people if they're covered? Well, no, the 30-metre rule is an unexposed risk to a person on the ground. If they're in a car, they're not actually exposed to the risk. Their property is, but they're not. So 101's the thing to read where it clarifies all of this. Oh, what if this? What if they're in a car? What if they're, wearing a helmet or a bike rider with a crash helmet on? Is that,
or they're wearing a suit of armour.
Yeah, exactly. A 101 tries to bring some sense to the regulations and give some guidance to it rather than leave it to the forums where we all talk about what we think it might mean. So, check out that. It's a good document. It's readable. It comes out regularly. The latest one is July 2018, so it's reasonably recent, and it includes sort of steps where we're going for the Manual of Standards, which will be the next major release for operators, particularly talking about what their responsibilities are in reporting and maintenance and so forth. But also they're keeping an eye on the excluded category. So, anyway, there it is.
So I'm just having a look through the chat, seeing what's in there. There's a couple of people saying CASA is law. Can I fly here is only a recommendation because it has lots of inconsistencies. Absolutely true.
Absolutely.
By the way, apologies, the chat's not on the screen today. We had a technical issue with that. Mel's there ready to push the button to make some things come up, but they're not coming up, so apologies for that. What else have we got here? We should
I was just going to throw in too, I don't know if anybody watches the employment websites, but we had a case to look at it the other day, and the amount of jobs in this industry are absolutely taking off exponentially. And for those that are keen to get into it, often you think about, I'm going to get a few bucks taking real estate, and there'll be a lot of people to do that. But there's a lot of other industry flying work that's starting to come up in the RPAS space at the moment. A little tip, because I'm giving advice to my son who's flying with me at the moment and hoping to get a real job one day, is to think about the IREX exam. So there's a couple of companies, Aviassist, offer the IREX course. It's a 5-day course. It's effectively a manned instrument rating course, but we're noticing that the serious companies want people with a bit of flying experience that have an IREX or going to do their IREX study. So there's a tip for you. If you want one of the jobs where you're asking for the 75 grand a year and up, you can, if you've got your IREX, you'll land one of those jobs. But I've seen jobs available from Carbonics and some of the bigger development companies that are looking for pilots to do demonstration flights. We've got a company in Sydney here has developed a rather unique powered lift aircraft, and they want to launch it throughout the world, and they want to send demo pilots with it to demonstrate it properly. So there's those sort of jobs going. That's a $100,000 aircraft, by the way. And beautiful looking thing for the build, but there's going to be more work for this. So I just thought I'd put that out there as well. Don't ever think, that not knowing the rules and doing a bit of study is going to land you a good job, because that little bit of extra that puts you ahead of other people, doesn't matter how good your videos are. And I assume with plenty of practice, if you can shoot some good video, but the real skill in landing that bigger job is to having those extra tickets.
Yeah. I noticed in the chat there, Mick Malloy, who was our guest last week, commented BV loss. I don't know what that was with regard to, but certainly there are rules about BV loss, and in summary, you can't fly where you can't see your aircraft.
At the moment, that's true. They're working pretty hard. The new manual of standards will have what we call extended visual line of sight, or EV loss, and you can read about EV loss in the document I mentioned. AC 101 talks about the future of EV loss. So EV loss extended means that you have an observer that can observe the airspace around your aircraft at some distance, and you have communication with them. So you might want to fly a couple of Ks away. You might have a string of observers. At the moment, BV loss is being looked at because a lot of law enforcement, surf lifesaving, everybody needs to move into a basic sort of BV loss now so that they can fly beyond visual line of sight, technically, in terms of what the technicality term of visual line of sight is. And the moment the law says that you've got to be able to see and orientate your aircraft with your own naked eyes. Now, that's, to be really honest, a small quadcopter at 400 meters, I don't know what your eyesight's like, 500 is an absolute stretch. And if you think you can fly 700 meters away, it's just a speck. So the law enforcement companies like the police and surf lifesaving that want to remain within the law and have to, find that a huge limitation on what they can do in terms of surf lifesaving and law enforcement. So what we're looking at is what we call a radio line of sight containment. And I was on a panel, we talked with CASA about this, and so we feel that there's a safety in containing line of sight. Now, this means that you couldn't do 4G connection or longer range, but your average Phantom 4 that might have a couple of Ks of good telemetry, what we would do, perhaps you could say it would go 4 or 5 Ks. I know in most urban environments that would be an absolute stretch for the battery as well. You wouldn't be going more than 3 Ks out and back. Now, the radio will work in most situations at that. So that contains the aeroplane somewhat. So an unmodified Phantom is contained within that diameter purely by its own the physics of the radio and physics of the battery itself. So if you took a safety margin and say, well, 15% less than the demonstrated radio range is what you could do for BV loss, you've got something to work with. And at that distance, you could probably manage the airspace around the aircraft too with aided sight, i.e. if you can see where the general area of where the aircraft is flying and you can control that area, then it's possible. So I think BV loss, or what we're going to call R loss, radio line of sight, is going to be in
another term.
Yep, R loss. But I've coined that one, but whether it's used or not, because it's a form of BV loss. But I'd love that E loss, extended visual line of sight's got limitations for the law enforcement and so forth. BV loss is something much bigger, but R loss is kind of really manageable with modern domestic aircraft.
Okay, looking forward to all of those changes, and it's good to have someone as part of the family who's sitting on those CASA panels and representing our community here. Yep,
doing what we can. We can.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick little intermission, and I just want to share a slide on the screen. This is just a quick little reminder. We're growing our channel all the time, and we're about to talk about our big competition that we've been running for a while. So we've got AusByDrone on YouTube, obviously, Twitter and Facebook. So I've got a request to everyone who's here today. Please do share out a link on one or more of those platforms to help us to grow a little bit. We've got a competition that's been running. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're giving away a DJI Osmo Mobile. Unfortunately, our numbers have actually been falling. And YouTube, the wonderful platform that it is, if people are not regularly watching, and we've had a few people fall off and not a large number come on, so we've gone down in numbers, and right now it looks something like the number you'll see on the screen in a couple of moments. And yeah, so just after your help to go and share out, here's our show. Come and watch it. Please do subscribe. Last week we were 703. Oh, we just lost someone. So 699. So yeah, need your help. And you can help me because it's going to be my birthday present if I get to 1,000 by 19th of November. That's my target. But at the moment, I don't think we're going to hit it. So anyway,
give it our best shot. Give it our best shot.
Enough on that for the moment. Moving on to the competition. So last time we asked for some photographs on reflection. Now, interestingly, I've seen many photographs, but we didn't actually have anyone submit. So we do have a couple of videos that were hangovers. So the first one is from Artco Drone Solutions. That one was sent about a water tower, which was a kind of an orbit one. We asked for that a couple of weeks ago. Let's have a look at that video to start with. So this video was shot, as I said, by Artco Drone Solutions. It's titled The Old Arvada Water Tower. This particular video is of the 108-year iconic Arvada Water Tower in the old part of Arvada, Colorado, standing 152 feet tall and built in 1910. And wow. It was only decommissioned in 1977, so certainly a kind of a memory of days before. And one thing I wanted to quickly chat about in the video, we can see some prop shadows there. So how do you avoid prop shadows, John?
Well, you know, it's the angle here we're at, so we're fairly well low down on the subject, and you can see that the camera is actually probably about plus 4 or 5 degrees up. So what you want to do is raise the aircraft a tiny bit higher and lower the camera angle just a little, and that'll take the prop shadows out. Also, you know, in terms of the environment as well, some people use black propellers, and that tends to take a little bit of the prop shadow out just because you don't get the reflection of the props from underneath. So remember, the actual surface of the aircraft, if you're flying DJI aircraft and they're often white, reflects up into the propellers and then down back into the camera area. So you get a little bit of that too. Obviously a black aircraft is a better, in terms of non-reflective, tends to keep the heat a little bit more. But that's a better angle there. You can see that angle now we're coming to, where you can still got plenty of horizon, but no evidence of prop shadow, purely because the camera angle is down and out of the way.
And look, certainly, and certainly time of day as well. So if you're filming right when you've got the sun straight above, angling down through your props down onto your camera, that's definitely going to help. And that's one of the reasons why we always love the golden hour, beginning and the end of the day. You're not going to have that sun shining through your props.
Yep, hard shadows as well. When you're taking aerial photography and you're using a ground subject without the sky, a cloudy day is better because you don't get shadows. It certainly bakes the whole environment in a much warmer light. And that's why too, you know, sometimes a morning cloudy shot can be really, really nice in terms of the light if you get your exposure setting quite right. But doing orbital shots like that, think about the entry and the exit point of the orbit. So in that particular video, which was absolutely fine, but a way to even perhaps improve on that is to approach the tower and begin the orbit. You know, so you've got this movement around it, and or even perhaps I actually prefer the one where you're actually right in close to the tower, so you can't see what it is, and you might be showing just the actual lettering itself. So it titles the video for you. You've got the actual name of the tower, and you can't see it's a water tower. And then, of course, as you pan back, you start to reveal it's a tower, and then rotate, rotate, rotate. And as you pull away, because a complete rotation is to show the horizon mostly rather than the object itself. So then what you do is, if you're going to plan, you can see in one of the directions there, you had the mountains in the background. So what you would obviously do, if the lighting is right, you plan to do the reveal and reveal the water tower with the mountains themselves, or perhaps even a side issue where you might reveal the tower, begin to rotate and reveal the mountains. So you've got the twin reveal as you come. But, you know, practice will give you these type of ideas and exposure. The more you watch it, and even just discussing that excellent video there, and think about, okay, it's great, I see what it is, but you know, take it at what it is, but have a think about what's in the shot, what's the composure, You know, it's a bright sunny day. There's all sorts of reasons why a full circle is really not necessarily the best way to do it in terms of that light from above. But anyway,
but having said that, we're not criticising you, ArtCo Drone Solutions.
Absolutely not at all. You're happy to discuss.
It's a beautiful video.
Yeah, it is a beautiful video, and I always you know, congratulate people for posting their video up. We wouldn't, anybody that posted up will congratulate your work, but of course we're here to discuss it in a competition. And there's my comments on that. Constructive comments.
So moving on from that, Steve's Ray of Sunshine Photography. He's got some video over water, which was what we were doing last week. Let's have a look at that one. So this one was taken over a couple of bays in Magnetic Island in the Townsville area. It's taken with a DJI Phantom 4 Pro, my favourite aircraft. The first one is Radical Bay, followed by Cockle Bay, and then moving on to a shipwreck, which was the steamship SS City of Adelaide.
Very nice. Nice flat horizon. Look at the horizon. Bolt straight.
It annoys me, the horizon, how it's so difficult to get it all the time.
You got to work on that. That's the one that makes a real difference for me. If I can look at it, see horizon, you know, set properly.
Yeah. So this video goes for a couple of minutes, and what we might do is we can flick it along a little bit, see if we can find where we've got the ship going over the ship. But by the way, as always, encourage people to have a look in the description a little bit later after the show and go to the channels. We'll go a little bit further. I did let my producer know that we were doing this, so I'm just trying to... There we go.
There we go. Lovely. Fly up to the wide shot, and there's the ship.
But encourage you to have a look in the description after the show. Go to the channels of the people who we featured today. And if you like their material, definitely subscribe and have a look at a few more of their videos.
Wow, look at that. That's a tree.
Yeah, I know. This is way cool.
On the ship.
Yep.
It's an island, in fact.
Yeah, so again, this was the shipwreck, the steamship SS City of Adelaide.
Yeah, what a spot. Where is that spot, Greg?
He says a couple of bays on Magnetic Island. It'd be around there. It'd be around that area.
It looks, the watercolour looks to be up north in Queensland and so forth. There's a few practice flyovers.
Yeah. So we'll leave that there, and
very nice.
Thank you very much to Steve and to ArtCo for submitting those. Unfortunately, this week's competition was reflections. So we don't have reflections this week, but I'll ask for anyone to try that again. So this is either video or stills where you're photographing the horizon across water and you can see a reflection of what's above the horizon down below.
And we're looking for that kind of, that symmetry, if you like, if is a part of it as well. Maybe we can include that word.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go on from there. We're going to go to our Explore Australia videos, and we've got some great ones this week. Let's have a look.
Yeah, beauty. Love these. My favourite part of the show.
So starting at the beginning, we've got Quadcopter Fun Down Under is the name of the channel. By the way, I just want to say Greg Hilton is the person who compiles these each and every week for us, and he does a great job scouring the internet.
G'day, mate.
So this one's at Gerringong and Jerawa, shot in 2008. Gerringong and Jerawa coastline, taken in the afternoon. And a DJI Mavic Air is the aircraft that he shot this with an ND8 filter.
Yeah, that's good.
It's interesting, having just recently flown the Spark for the first time. I hadn't flown that before. It's interesting the different feeling on that aircraft to the Phantom for a start, but still, as a photography drone, still a very nice.
It's remarkable. The Mavic Air and the Spark are lovely little aircraft, you know, and so capable as well. You know, that's nice. So
this one from Monton J Films. Sunrise at Southwest Rocks, Australia. We got some drone footage looking at the best sites and attractions in Sydney, Wollongong and the Shire. So Monton J, you're in my part of the world, so I'm going to have to look you up. So this one was found again by Greg.
Yeah, that's nice. There you go. Reveal the sun, a bit of flare. Lovely. You can see the flare rotating to the right there on the thing. That's always a nice sort of image to do as well. Nice to put a quick flare shot in when you're editing as well. It just gives it's very three-dimensional. Do you notice that? You look where the flare is down the bottom there, in the bottom part of the screen. It adds a whole. It appears to jump out from the image itself and make the image more dimensional.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And then moving on from that, our friend Ferg Taz, you have to come on to this show and be a guest, mate. We've had so many of your videos. So this one's from Bridport to Birmingham, flying along Tasmania.
Yeah, look at that. What a day.
Now, compared to previous weeks, I haven't done the research in advance, so I don't know Bridport and Bellingham. I don't know those areas. Do you, John? Have you been there?
Yes, I know where it is, absolutely. And, you know, so much of Tasmania is like this for our international guests. Tasmania is the... And, yeah, you can... There's places there. I just love the island, Burby Island. I like... you know, all of that area, but there's so much of Tasmania. Also, Kangaroo Island's magnificent. But talking about the shot here, it's interesting. You could fly over this terrain and have some great scenery involved. But of course, the car it makes you feel like you're there. It's another point of interest. You know, the car or anything. Even if you had a bird, perhaps that you're able to photograph flying over something that wasn't freaked out, you get this point of interest where you know you feel like the car is part of the journey through the shot, and he's kept it consistent all the way. We haven't left the car, and yet we've gone through all of these various. There it is again, with all these various different ideas, shot ideas, landscape, you know, coastal, sand hills, everything else, and the car is always that constant within it. Even different times of day, but you know, it shows you know, in a few minutes it shows an epic size adventure, you know, within a short space of time. So that's a really good videographer's technique as well, to have a constant. You know, we use that with music. I mean, music has the same effect. By stringing and tying the shots together, it's kind of a glue that makes a video shots work, or a commentary of some kind. The way you work your commentary into the shot changes, you know, and sometimes you talk across a shot. You don't necessarily wait for a new shot and talk about it, new shot, talk about it. That kind of doesn't have a flow, the same sort of flow as a commentary that keeps you in the actual movement and flow of the video shots as they're strung together. Great stuff. And then we circle the car to finish. Absolutely beautiful work. Oh, and some more car. Here we go. Speaking
of cars, we've got the Matsuri Drift 2018 Queensland Raceway, drifting from the eye of an FPV freestyle pilot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an awesome bit of flying.
Yeah, so Bean is the creator here, and the comment is, I have something a little special for you this time. Had an amazing chance to get some flying in for a local drift event. It rained for a long time. Luckily, we got in just at the right time to stay dry. Good to see some of the Hoonigan boys there too. Hoonigan boys, I haven't heard that one before, but it's a good one. Great event and well done to the drivers for the mad show.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Oh, yeah, there's the flip. I knew he was going to do something. That's just that's fantastic. Don't underestimate for a second what skill this would take, everybody. That's a very, very high skill set. Not just to fly FPV that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice and flat, but still keeping the subject center like that. So that's some real skill. Beautiful. Oh, yes. And a flyby and flip around. That's great. Nice work.
You know, it's interesting. You know, we've all been used to the cinematic Phantom DJI style photography, but some of the FPV flyers are now making cinematic stuff out of their skills, and it's absolutely incredible. Oh,
it is. It's fun to watch. You know, a lot of people find even looking at a course is quite exciting. You know, in terms of the sensation of flying through it. You know, you have those rides at Disneyland where you're getting the 3D, film idea of riding a roller coaster. When you're not on the roller coaster, you're watching the imagery of it. And so it's the same sort of feeling. That's very nice. Where's that?
So this is our last clip today. This one's shot by Scott Sheehan, and it's in Phillip Island. Drone footage taken at Phillip Island in September and October of this year. How
pretty. That's lovely. I wonder if he got some penguins. That's probably a no flyover area, I would say, the penguins. Definitely.
Well, National Parks and Wildlife, certainly if it was a New South Wales one, I'm sure Tasmania's got their own equivalent laws.
Oh, yeah, those penguins are fairly shy creatures. I don't imagine they'd take kindly to the UAV being too close.
I love those tones from the cloud, from the sun.
Yeah, there's a nice separation there. Yeah, that sort of shot's great. And you take your time with it. Look, it's not too fast. Just let you soak it all in. Movement there, so even though the aircraft's walking forward very slowly, the waves are creating the movement and a reveal backwards. Magic. Very pretty. Well, there's a bit of reflection in there, you know, Greg. A nice reflection.
Yeah.
But I know what you're looking for.
Yeah. So again, thank you to Greg Hilton, who's one of our regulars.
Greg.
He does some great work putting a lot of that info together. So thank you, Greg. And speaking of thank yous, our news is also put together by Jeff Sills. Thank you, Jeff, for helping to troll the internet and find all of this great information that we share each week. So,
and thanks for everyone tuning in.
Absolutely. We've reached the end of the hour, but I've got one video that I'm going to share. I'm going to skip one, which I'm not going to show. So I'll skip 6.1 and do 6.2. This is something really, really classic to end on. Let's have a look. By the way, I have edited the audio for language.
Give me a fucking whoa! Put your wallet in the bag. Do it, mother. Come on, give me my wallet. Whoa! Jesus Christ! Hang on, I got it. Face, put the money in the bag now. What you got? It's in the bag. Chill. I'm chill as fuck.
I think that speaks for itself. Wait, we got a little bit more.
Oh, no, that's giving people ideas, isn't it? The cops coming? Are the cops
No, that was his bros going and riding off into the sunset with him.
Oh, I thought it might have been the cops chasing him. You know, that would have
been cool. But
the humorous side of the video.
Yeah, but just to share, this one was shot and edited in Australia. SK8441 created that one. Link in the description to his channel. Please do go and have a look at that. It's a classic video.
Yeah, it's real good.
Okay, we've reached the end of the hour. It's been fun. Let me just have a look in the chat. We didn't have the chat on the screen today, so I'll do that manually.
Lots of chat activity today. I've got it sitting here on the desk, and everybody's been uh, chiming in some good stuff. Everyone, it's lovely to have that contribution each week, and have it on the side here, so we know that we're hitting the target and talking about what you want to talk about. And so, listen, I see a couple of comments about radio line of sight, so I might investigate that a little bit further. I'll keep you up to date with that, guys, so you know that what the new rules might give us in terms of a bit more legal range and so forth as well. So, yeah, we might throw that in a future show as well. Hey, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking here. Weedman Photography. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I just got drone flying and checked the SD card and it wouldn't read. I plugged in the Mavic to the device and detected it copying the file. So nearly lost something. That's a good way to go and check it. Plug in the Mavic and copy it over the USB. What else have we got? Please explain again the benefit of the IRES qualification. That was from Adrian.
IREX. IREX qualification. Well, go check on, say, the Seek website, and you'll see some of the bigger paying jobs asking for IREX. Now, to give you an idea, back in 2002, when they first started talking about drone regulation in Australia, they were trying to work out what pilot qualifications pilots would have to have for more sophisticated drones. And we didn't have sophisticated aircraft in those days, but they figured that an instrument rating, an IREX, which is instrument rating exam, theory exam, would qualify pilots. So for a long while, when you applied for a remote pilot license or UAV license in Australia, it's had a box there that you could tick to say that you had an IREX qualification. And that was so that one day when Beyond Visual Line of Sight arrives, you have the qualifications. An IREX, instrument-rated pilot, is used to looking at instruments or looking at a representation of the aircraft telemetry and able to fly the aeroplane. So it's still, you know, in there. But, of course, it looks like the future is going to include the IREX as well. It gives you a much greater awareness of airspace, navigation, the way longitude and latitude works with GPS, the problems with charts and how they're inaccurate. If you learn a little bit of GIS, geospatial science about the Earth and navigation, it's not real complicated stuff. The words are big, but it's pretty simple. It's high school level maths and physics, and not real hard at all. And also the regulations around IREX as well give you that higher level. So it means you don't have to do a whole pilot's license. You don't have to have a manned pilot's license and all that expense involved in that. And you can have a theory qualification that really means something. And even a private pilot license is not as good as an IREX in terms of knowledge of airspace and navigation. A private pilot, you know, up and down, few circles around, fine weather, very, very easy. It's more or less like a boat license. But an IREX exam is a professional pilot's qualification for the theory of navigation and the theory of meteorology and so forth. So have a look. If you look on the Seek website, you'll see bigger jobs there saying, yes, if you have the IREX exam or you will get the IREX in the next 12 months, you're eligible for this job. So that was my point about IREX today.
And for someone asking where all these jobs, seek.com.au is certainly the Australian website. If there are other equivalent websites, I'm sure, in other countries.
Yep. Just write drone jobs, seeking drone jobs wherever you are in the world, and the agencies that look for and post this type of work, get your CV ready, have a real good look at what the jobs are. Look, that's the best thing to do if you're looking at this in the future, is see what people are asking for now. If a lot of companies that are paying the big bucks are asking for IREX, you know, it's not going to cost you a fortune to put 5 days into the course and get it. And be ahead of the other, you know, knuckle draggers that want to go in and get the job.
Yeah,
I say that with love, of course. Absolutely.
One quick comment, Yowie P51. I saw iSpike mentioning him in the chat. When I was out flying the Spark, Yowie came down to Wanda, and he was flying his fixed wing down there, the Bixler. So got a little bit of footage from him flying, and I'll put all that together in the near future. But that's all for today. Just to remind everyone again with the social media stuff, please do me a favor. 1, comment on this video. 2, share the video on Twitter and or Facebook after the show's over. That would be really helpful. want to grow, want to make the channel worthwhile. It's fun as it is, and I'll still keep doing it, but, you know, you always want to grow.
Yep.
Okay, that's enough for today. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Bye.
See you,
now.
everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye. Fly safe.
Absolutely.